We're live and the countdown. Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Shayna. I am the family life coach. I'm coming to you today because we have a very special show in store for you today. Again, I am here with the Mother's Place. That is the name of this podcast, as well as we meet up every Tuesday at 8:30 in a room on Clubhouse. The Mother's Place was basically created to help mothers strengthen, rebuild, and realign to who they should become. We are the birthers of the nation. So why not us stand in the forefront and be realigned with purpose, with intent of who we are to become? So I am so ecstatic today because we have the very own, oh my God, let me tell you this. This woman of God right here, she walks the walk and talks the talk. And she is definitely a person who has a sweet spirit. That's what I love about her so much. How I connected to her was through another group that we were a part of, and I'm so grateful for that connection. So not only was I connected to her because of that, but I was going through my own personal situation, and the Holy Spirit gave me her name. And today she is here as our guest, and it's our very own Coach Ra. So, Coach Ra, I'm so happy to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. So, what I want you to do at this time is basically introduce yourself to our viewers, all of our viewers. Okay.
Okay, well, again, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I am humbled, ecstatic. I am honored, and I just
No
say thank
problem.
you.
No
Um,
problem.
my name is Ryan Carter. I am the owner of Pursuit of Your Purpose LLC. We are a coaching business. I am a life purpose coach, specializing in relationship recovery, um, mental health, um, just a variation of different things. I am an author, I am a motivational speaker, and mental health advocacy for me is number one. So, in all that I do, my number one thing on my business is to see other people healed. That is my main goal and priority. I am a mother of one, a divorcee. I am a woman who has overcome several obstacles, and I want to be that medicine for someone else to be healed.
Ah, oh my goodness. I love that how you ended that. You want to be the medicine for someone else to be healed. And people don't know that dealing with being a coach or a life coach, we are the ones who have experienced a lot of the things that we've actually helping other people to overcome. So that is like medicine.
Right.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So I love that. And again, I just want to thank you so much for being here. And I love that you talk about relationships. And our title of our show today is Unpacking Relationship Baggage. Would you like to explain what that means to you as far as unpacking relationship baggage?
For me, unpacking relationship baggage, it's more than just a relationship between a man and a woman. It's relationship baggage that can deal with family members, because a lot of things that we are dealing with and faced with as being human are traumas that established from our youth. And there are things that have not been talked about, things that have been swept under the rug. And I think, especially in our communities, a lot of things are what happens in our house stays in our house, and it affects you in the long run. And with building relationships, friendships, courtships with other people, you have to at times identify and address these issues, because otherwise I feel like it brings on a toxic situation. And it's not toxic by choice. It's toxic because a lot of times we leave things packed up. You know,
Oh, mm,
you got to unpack that stuff.
well, 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 well.
Yes.
So I am so I definitely understand that. As you know, my story, I'm pretty sure you have heard that I went through a lot of issues within my childhood. And it was a lot of relationship issues. Not knowing who I am, basically thrown in a family. I was raised by two step parents. It was unsurety. Didn't know security, knew what
Mm,
that meant to be stable. I didn't have that because I had two step parents. My mother gave me up when I was 12. So it did cause relationship issues. And family is one of those. It was hard for me, but I loved family.
mm,
Like I wanted family and I embraced family. But what I realized is that in the long run, because I embraced family so much and I didn't have that stability or security, that I became a people pleaser within that. And that was hard for me when I felt like that I was just being me, but I was really people pleasing to be accepted.
mm.
Is there anything that you can add for advice to that, or maybe somebody's watching that need help with that part?
Well, in regards to just being people pleaser, for me, one of the reasons why I talk about unpacking the baggage is, as you mentioned, with your childhood. For me, I dealt with my biggest issue. For me, my trauma is abandonment, and I had to be open and always tell people you have to name the trauma.
Mm.
It's important to name it so you know how to deal with it. And for me, my father was not in my life, although I wanted him to be in my life. I can remember being as young as 6, calling him on the phone and saying, I want to see you, I want to spend time with you. And it was like, okay, next weekend would roll around and he wasn't there. So for me, it rolled over into my adulthood, into the dating scene. I was always like, okay, well, you want to come see me or I could come see you? I'll make myself available. And it's like, this is now a trauma because I dealt with having a father who was absent that I wanted to be around. And like you said, just being a people pleaser, I wanted to make sure I was pleasing people in every way possible to make sure they were there. So it's important, and people are like, oh my gosh, you're so needy. It's not that I'm needy, is that I have an issue with people going away or not being there. So you have to, again, like I said, name that thing. This is my trauma. My trauma comes with abandonment. And I have to be open with people and say, hey, listen, before we get into this friendship or relationship, I need you to know I'm dealing with abandonment issues. Although it's not as intense as it was back then because I've, dealt with it, I've named it, I've identified it. And when I catch myself personally becoming that person to please and to beg, I'm like, okay, Ryan, hold up now. You're going back to that place again when you were 6 and you were begging for this time. You have to understand that people have their own life and you have to, back up a little bit, but you have to be open and unpack that thing and say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. And a key thing with unpacking that baggage, let me just say, you have to be ready to revisit that moment of where it generated from that root, because we too often put a band-aid over it and try to move forward. But you definitely have to be open enough to be willing to revisit that moment and identifying it.
I love that you said you had to put a name on it. You definitely have to put a name on it so you can call it out. And
Right.
that's like anything in your life. Everything has a name. So why would we not name our trauma to cause it to pull it out? So I love that. And you also talked about going to the root because we know that anytime that you realize some things about yourself, there's a root to it. And until we go back to the root, we cannot pull it out. We have to
Right.
go back to the root. So I definitely love that. I definitely love that. Was there anything so I definitely heard you talk about abandonment issues. Of course, abandonment issues do lead to a multiple of things. What else in your life have you experienced where you had to go back to the root in dealing with relationships and understand it, unpack it, and then come forward?
Other times in my life, I know with dealing with my ex-husband, as I mentioned, I'm a divorcee. So at that period of time, I was at a place in my life where I was at a settled place. And it was like, okay, you're at a certain age, you just need to go ahead and get married. And I recognized, although I didn't grow up with my father, I married a man who had the same similarities as him. He was an alcoholic. He was abusive verbally. And, he just took me to a place. And even though he did all of those things, again, remember, because I dealt with abandonment, I didn't want you to leave. So let me try to do something different to make you stay. Let me try to do something different to make your behaviors change. It didn't work, of course. But I had to go back to that place and say, okay, again, you are trying to relive that moment where you had a person, you tried
Mm,
to get to act right, and it wasn't going to happen. And you had to come to your own self and say, Ryan, listen, it's bigger than that. In order for you to be healed, again, identifying that issue and naming that issue is key. And you have to be willing to go ahead and say, okay, we revisit that moment. We taking the time. You have to face your emotions as well. Facing your emotions is important because you try to put a band-aid even over that moment, of how you feeling. It's like, okay, again, like I said, it's going to get better when you know it realistically is really is not going to get better until you better yourself. So you have to allow yourself to heal from that root and allow yourself to heal from that actual moment that you're living in at that time as well. And for me, that it was key for me, to get over that overcoming stage. Even though, again, every now and then, you still have those moments where you have to remind yourself, I'm not in that time where that root was created. I'm in the present time. And affirmations are very important in those times as well, because you have to start speaking healing over yourself. You have to start speaking, I'm not going to allow myself to continue to live in the past, because living in that past is not going to be successful in any relationship that you're moving on to. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, it's only going to become toxic the more that you're reliving those moments. It's not, because if you're trying to build something with someone new, it's not that person's fault.
Right, right,
But
right,
but putting it out there helps them understand more how to adapt and how to deal with those situations and remind you, hey, I'm not them.
right, right, right. I love that. Like, oh my God, we got some great, 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 great. Like, I love that. Um, so you said a lot within that. You talked about you said talking about being in the present time. You talked about revisiting the moment, and I think a lot of us, and I feel like a lot of us go through this time where we ignore the moment, right? We ignore it.
Right.
And I love when you talked about emotions. Emotions are definitely important with anything in life. And I say that because they're like, I told my son, I said, you know what? You know how you watch Spider-Man and he have those spidey senses and all of a
Mhm.
sudden he starts to tingling? I said, it's the same thing with your emotions. I am so grateful that we have emotions. Now that we have emotions, we need to build more of emotional intelligence, like everybody
Mhm.
talk about all the time,
Right.
and pay attention to these emotions because they are definitely key indicators that there's something wrong, right? If there's something negative, if there's something happy, if you're not feeling right around somebody, we have to pay attention to them. I love how you talked about that, and you talked about being present, and speaking healing over yourself as far as affirmations. And you talked about being a divorcee, and I'm pretty sure there, we're on the mother's place. Of
Mhm.
course, we know we're talking to women. We have a lot of single mothers. We have a lot of women who are, may have been in relationships where they were married and now divorced. And you talked about, you dating men that were like your father. And a lot of people or a lot of women don't even realize that we actually we actually do this without thinking. It's
Right.
a it goes back to generational curses. People think that generational curses do not exist, but in actuality they do, because it's like, I try to explain it this way. When it comes to that man or that mother over your life, it becomes natural. It's a comfort. You get what I'm saying? It's a
Mhm.
comfort. So when you meet that man, even though you may not see it, it's a comfort. It's like a
Mhm.
familiarity. And a lot of women don't see that. And I believe that that's a part of too why the divorce rates are so high, because even when we get there and we get those spidey senses that there's something wrong, we try to figure out what it is. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? And we don't know how to get out of it. And sometimes we feel like it's too late. And we adapt to what our parents say. Oh, you better stay there. You got
Mhm.
a good man. You got a good job. He's taking care of you.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So how do what advice do you offer when couples come like that, where there's one person who's continued to grow in self and they've outgrown the relationship? What would you say to couples, and what would you say to singles who are growing, and when they see that the certain areas of life with people and relationships don't fit anymore?
What I would say to couples first, it's important to discuss traumas on both ends. A lot of times, us as women, we're nurturers. That's natural. And we get into a place where we feel like we can fix everybody. Okay. It's like we're like the Olivia Pope of the relationship. We can fix it. And that's not the case. A lot of times men have traumas that they don't discuss. You know, of course, they are have to be that the manly man, don't cry, hold your feelings in. But you have to be open on both sides. That's key for couples. Be open, be honest, be realistic, and you don't have to accept, you know, if the person like, oh, well, I'm an abuser, you don't have to accept an abuser, but you can understand, okay, well, this is where it comes down to, where it stems from, and address those things and issues that you do have. When it comes to the singles, especially a single mother, a thing for me as a single mother to a daughter, it's very important for me to show and lead by example. When you talk about the generational curses, one thing for me, I don't want my daughter to see a man that's in the house that's not working, a man that's putting his hands on me, a man who's cursing me out, because that's not the man that I want her to go after. What I want her to see is a man that respects me. You know, so she knows and she says, okay, my mother didn't tolerate a man putting his hands on her. That's not something that's acceptable. So I appreciate that she has godfathers in her life that are in relationships like long-term marriages that love their wives. And I love the fact that although she doesn't have a man physically in the home to see it, she can still see it one-on-one when it comes to like her godfathers, and see that there are men out there who love. So she's getting an example. So even for me, when I get into a relationship and she sees me in a relationship, there's another in-home relationship she can see and get an example from. So for single mothers, don't settle because you feel the need that you need to be with a man. Yes, you might get lonely, you know. It's natural. Again, we are full of emotion. That's just us as women. We want the physical touch. Yes. But you also want to, especially if you have young boys in the home too, you want them to see by an example a man who is respectful. Just like you want your daughter to see a man that is respectful. And you want her and your son to see a woman and what a woman should be like. You know, we're not supposed to be out here half dressed and, you know, on the phone. And every time your children look, it's like, oh, that's Uncle so and so. How many uncles you want to see them with? You know, see
That
them
part.
with.
That
You
part.
know,
Oh, yes.
so
What I
take your time. If you a single woman out here, take your time. Okay. And make sure you have the right fit. Don't settle. I don't care if you feel like you 50 years old and life is about to be over. Take your time.
when I
That'd be
tell
my advice. And still, like I said, with the couples, with the singles, address those traumas. Tell them to open up that suitcase and see what they had packed into that
right.
bag.
Right. I love that. I love everything that you said when you talked about you what you said for singles and what you said for couples. Like, we don't realize the vision. Like ocular, what we see, the eyes actually entrapped. They're like snapshots. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure that they got the idea of the camera from the eyes because we snapping images as we go through life. And so that means that a lot of what we do, our children follow, not by
Right.
what they hear, but what they see. So we
Mm-hmm.
definitely have to get into a life of leading by example. A lot of people don't really pay attention to that because remember, we were a part of those houses.
Right.
What, like you said earlier, what goes in this house stays in this house.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was, oh, children are be seen and not heard, or it was, do as I say and not as I do. And we
Right.
sitting up here like, well, how do you do that? Do
Right.
do as I say, not as I do. I see you with men coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I see got my father dating many women, all these different things, and we're like sponges. Children are
Right.
like sponges. We're taking that information in. And I remember because I wasn't always my best self and my best person. I was trying to strive to become better. But even as I look at my little sisters and I look at my little cousins, I see them going from relationship to relationship, right? And I wasn't that person. I was that person who, okay, guys in, guys, or it was one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But a pastor came to me one time. He was like, "You got to stop casting your pearls among swine," and I was like, "Wow, he was right because a lot of the guys that I was dating wasn't the right type of men for my son." And I'm so grateful that it was only like I can name like one or two who he really did not. He was like, "Up, no," but that made me want to choose the best person for me and the best person for my son, especially being a single mother. And we have to do that, is look at the person that they are to see if they're worthy of
Mhm.
leading over your child or your child looking up to them. And I love that. I love that. Even laying the traumas out on the table. A lot more couples need to do that. They need to
Right.
have these conversations about traumas, so when those things come up later, you won't be what they say, slighted or shaded, you
Right.
know. And another one is like, how soon are we to release our traumas? So I'm really funny. Like, I'm that person where I don't wear a mask. Like, I took my mask off a long time ago. Thank you, God, for deliverance with that, because I was like in an identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't wear a mask. I am who I am. I'm genuine. But when I go and meet a guy, I don't want to give him that information like straight up on the table,
Right.
but I just want to be myself. So some people and some women have a problem of how to gauge that. How do you gauge with being yourself and then also letting them know your traumas?
Well, key for number one is what we're not going to do is dump your suitcase. In my coaching technique, I use visual coaching. And I always say, like, if you're packing a suitcase, you're packing it usually, like for me, I'm packing outfit by outfit. When I'm unpacking my stuff, I'm taking it out piece by piece. I'm not just flipping it over and dumping everything on the bed because, like, it's a bunch of chaos. And it's going to be the same when you are opening up with your traumas and dealing with someone in conversation. You don't want to just say, bam, this is me. It's all on the table. And they're sitting there like, okay, where do we go from here? So you definitely want to keep it just in general conversation. And as you're talking, it doesn't even have to be, I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z. It can just be general conversation of giving different scenarios, to see how they would react to certain things, or just saying, openly. So, what are some of the traumas that you're faced with? And they can just start off with maybe one or two things and say, okay, well, I'm dealing with abandonment, and maybe I'm an overcoming alcoholic. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's talk about it. How are you dealing with the alcoholism? And you just have general conversation as you would typically, but you're not just going to put everything on the table,
Right,
all at once, because you're not trying to scare them away. You're trying to build a
right,
relationship.
right,
And even if it comes to relationship with family, you could be like, well, listen, I'm dealing with certain traumas from my past of X, Y, and Z. And you're just having a general conversation. Again, not dumping everything out at once because you don't want to overwhelm somebody. So just piece by piece. That's how I
right.
would put it out there.
I love that. We definitely we need to talk more about that. And I really believe that people do not know what it means to date or build a relationship that's healthy, or to notice a healthy relationship, because of all the abandonment or all the ways that they have been burnt by other people. So what are your cues and clues as far as noticing healthy relationships, one, and let's see, relationships, I'm writing it down, and also about, when you're dating, to learn how to date. We need to know how to date. Like, people don't understand that when we date, we're just having a conversation. We're
Mhm.
relation, not it's not specifically a relationship, because we're dating, we're getting to know each other. That means that whether it's a walk in a park, we're going to the movies. I don't even always talk about going to the movies, because I feel like that you don't really get to have conversation and
Right.
learn that person there. So I never pick a movie as a date. It's going out to eat. Let's
Right.
have conversation. Let's, talk on the phone a couple of times. Can you speak to that about realizing healthy relationships, whether it's friends, family, or a guy or a girl for the opposite sex, as well as what it means to date?
Well, when it comes to like just relationship and the dating scene, one, I always say people are going to give you their representative first. You don't get the real person until you get put into different situations or scenarios. When you are put into those positions and scenarios, pay attention to the red
Yeah,
flags.
that
Okay.
part. Hmm.
I don't care what anybody says. Those red flags are so visible. They are waving at you. They tap you on the shoulder. They in front of you like this. They are there. We just ignore them. But pay attention to the red flags. That is going to be key. In regards to a healthy relationship, I feel like a healthy relationship, when you were in one, it's gonna you're going to know, because that person, when you start opening up to that person or talking to that person, they are not going to bash you for opening up or telling your truths. A lot of times you can't express your truth because people make you feel ashamed of them. Like a lot of times for me, I kept a lot to myself, especially when I was right in a dark, dark place. When I dealt with my divorce, I dealt with it privately because there was a lot of shame and hurt, because I had people who I know was going to just be like, I told you so and so and so and so. But when you have someone, when you're in a relationship, whether it's friends, family, or you're just dating, when they can openly be there for you and help you heal, that's healthy.
And that point fingers.
Right. Helping me heal versus you be like, I told you so. So you said that there is a slap in the face to anybody to shut down. It is. Especially when, I deal with a lot of people who have depression issues. When you look at people who are on the verge of suicide, it's those pointing fingers that push them over those limits. It's the person who tries to just kind of block you out that pushes people over the limits. People who are there with the open ear and who can healthily give you advice and suggestions on how to heal. That's what you want to look for. That is a healthy relationship. Somebody who is supporting you to your healing, not somebody that's hoping to tear you back down or keep you back in your slump. So the healthy part is that person who is there to heal you, to go through the process with you, to say, I have you, I'm rooting for you. We're going to get through this. You're not going to do it by yourself, but we're going to go through this together. That's the healthy part.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. I tell people all the time that one of my no, you know how so it was Taryn. I don't know if you saw the show with Taryn, but Taryn talked about boundaries.
Mhm.
We need to start setting boundaries. It was Jennifer Palmer that talked about that too. We need to start setting boundaries, and this is something that I'm even realizing for myself is within relationships, friendships, family, anybody that we had to start setting boundaries for ourselves. And sometimes when we don't set boundaries, people overtake things or they
Right.
push too much. But one of my things, one of my issues, I'm not gonna say issue. One of my boundaries is smacking me with my own mess. Meaning that if you know that this is a weakness of mine and I'm
Mhm.
something that I'm overcoming and I'm trying to overcome or heal from, you bet not bring it up and smack me with my weakness.
Right.
That is my boundary zero, let's go, I'm done. Like,
Mhm.
because a lot of people take that pain and they dig and they dig and they smack you with it, and it and
Right.
it and it's like, and you wonder why we come out with band-aids.
Mhm.
So how do you feel about people? Can you give some advice for people who smack people with their with their other people's pain, and those who are taking that in and allowing people to hurt them with their past pain?
Those who are smacking people with their pain are people who are still in the healing process.
Oh.
Point blank simple. That's all it is. And the people who are getting smacked, is you're allowing it. In some shape, form, or fashion, you allow people to get too comfortable with you to even come at you that way. Because I let you know straight up, listen, this is what we're not going to do. A boundary is a boundary. A boundary is not a punishment. It's just a respect level. And if you don't respect me, we have nothing else to discuss. Point blank simple.
I like that. I like that. It's definitely a boundary is definitely a respect level. And I believe that we as women we need to put more up.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to unpacking your baggage, because a lot of times we don't put up boundaries because it's some things that we are trying to attain, or we're just being walked all over because that has happened from our childhood and we didn't
Right.
know how to with, withhold that. Like, oh my God. Like, wow. Boundary is a respect level. Do you have any cliches that you usually use for your business, or some words that you like to go by, or some affirmations?
I have so many. My one of my main things.
What's your favorite one?
Oh my god, I have so many. I I have so many. A lot of, I'll be honest, a lot of my cliches be so instant. I could just be talking and just like, okay, damn. But it's just One of my main things is just I always want people to know that achieving your purpose is achievable. Point blank simple. That'd be like one of my main things. Um, and I guess I utilize that one more so because even in the stuff that we deal with, our obstacles in different situations of life, it serves a purpose.
I like that.
And like I said earlier, for me, I want to be medicine for someone else to heal. So for me, that's my purpose that I'm trying to achieve is to help someone else heal. So that would probably be like one of my main ones.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because a lot of people don't even equate. Like we're so caught up in finding our purpose and walking in purpose, but we don't equate that everything that we do in life has to have a purpose with it, has a purpose with it. We go and we drink water because we know water is necessary for the body.
Right.
We eat food because food is nutrients for the body. So everything has purpose. That means it has an intent. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So we have to make sure that we walk towards that. I love that. So when we and achieving goals, we don't even look a lot of times we don't even know the vision to achieve, with and getting to purpose. So does that go back with finding purpose and knowing that you have purpose? Does that go back to unpacking your baggage? Does that go back to some type of luggage or having some type of laundry or things that's in your baggage or in your suitcase that you didn't know was there? Do you think a lot of us is walking around without purpose because we didn't know that everything that we packed was intentional?
I believe so because a lot of your purpose is, I believe your purpose are things that you overcome, and not only that, it can also be your passion. Like for me, it's two in the same because for me, my passion is to help other people. And my purpose, when I look at the things that I've been through, a lot of times when I look at myself versus someone else, I'm like, gosh, if that person would have dealt with the level of that situation that I dealt with, they wouldn't have made it out. So I had to come to the realization that some of what I dealt with was for someone else. So I feel like my healing process, the ugly healing process that I had to go through to get to where I am now, was for someone else to help them get out easier, to help them avoid certain situations. And that's how I look at it when it comes to the purpose part of it.
Wow, wow. I love that. I love that. A lot of people don't look at life like that.
Mhm.
They don't realize that a lot of things it was already written. So we
Mhm.
a lot of us believe in God
Right.
and we understand that our lives were already written. So that means that these were the cards that I had to play. But
Right.
everything has a purpose and there's a lesson within that lesson, within that story.
Mhm.
And so that means that it equates back to purpose. So we get married with we date with intention, right?
Mhm.
So dating with intention is the purpose to get married. That's what we look for, right?
Right.
So I feel like that we have to come back to understanding that purpose is real.
Mhm.
It's achievable, like you said, it's doable, but understanding that we are not supposed to go through life mundane or just
Right.
existing. I
Right.
told my son that the other day, I was like, look here, we have to know that everything that we do has to have an intention behind it. That's the will of
Mhm.
God. We have to have the will and to get up to work to move toward what we want to achieve in our lives.
Mhm.
But the only way to achieve that is to have vision. We have
Right.
to have vision. And so, if vision, when you have the will of God, when you have the vision, then you can get to the purpose of what
Mhm.
it is that you're called to do. But without that, you're just here.
Right.
How do you help people? I'm pretty sure that you, in your profession or in what you're teaching, as far as your coaching, you ran into a lot of people who were kind of like living mundane,
Mhm.
and they're just existing, allowing other people to control their lives. What do you say to those type of people?
Stop allowing people to unpack your baggage. Stop allowing people to identify who you are. It's impossible for somebody else to identify who you are when they're not you. So that's what I simply tell them. You have to live your life for you. You have to know you for you. When I came out my marriage, one thing I had to learn from about me was me because I was so busy adapting to other people, I didn't even know my favorite color. So
Wow.
I lived my life on liking and loving things that other people loved, and I knew nothing about Ryan. So I literally had to start from scratch to learn who I was. And to get to know who you are, you have to do things. I did things by myself. I dated myself to get to know me. And I was like, then that's crazy. Like, how do I not know my favorite color? My favorite food, what I like to do. I had to literally to do things to get to know that. So you have to, and it's like allowing people to label you. You can't allow people to label you because you then become that. You have to label yourself. So
Wow.
simply just stop allowing people to do it for you and do it for yourself. Don't allow others to unpack that baggage. Don't allow other people to identify you. You have to identify you for you, and that's simply just getting to know yourself. Spend time with yourself.
Oh my God. When you said that, I didn't even know. You said when I was married and I came out of, you were married, right? That's what you
Hmm.
said. When you came out of that relationship, you didn't even know your favorite color. Oh my God. And I'm pretty sure it's a lot of us as women and as mothers, especially because when we're in a relationship or we're married, we're the wife, we're the
Hmm.
mother, we're the counselor sometimes. Sometimes we got to be the preacher. We put on so many hats because
Right.
we're the person who's always doing, and we're the ones who giving, giving,
Hmm.
giving, 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 constantly giving. That so much sometimes we lose our own identity
Right.
within self, and that's why
Right.
that's why the mother's place was actually created. To help us realign with who we are. So when we come into those relationships, we can keep that person,
Hmm.
that identity of best self. Oh my God, I can't even imagine not even realizing or knowing your favorite color.
Yes,
Something
yes.
so simple. That's like taking you back to elementary school
Hmm.
or taking you back to preschool. You knew that when those crayons came out, those boxes, you knew which color to go to first.
Right.
Automatic. Automatic. But to not know your favorite color, that's definitely a loss of identity. And
Definitely.
that comes from not knowing and being intentional of knowing who you are within that
Right.
relationship. We have to keep oh my God, we have to keep hold to that.
Yes.
Hold to
Yes.
that. Something so simple as knowing your favorite color. Like that is so big to me. If anything from this podcast that I will remember, that right there is something to remember. Not knowing your favorite color. How, oh my God, how do you speak to those women who have gotten in these relationships and they lose themselves? Like, what word of advice would you give them for right now, as far as not knowing what their favorite color is? Being able to, they're adapting to their relationship and they're actually taking on the identity of their husband, or they're taking on the identity of mother, but not really happy. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of women, and I know it was me. I'm gonna tell you right now. I remember being in a relationship and being married. I had lost my identity so much that I wasn't happy. But I knew it was something that I had to hold on to, or it was something that was lost. And what I found out, it was purpose.
Hmm.
Some of us think that our purpose is to be wife
Right.
and mother and to be that person. But I forgot that God also had a purpose for my life.
Hmm.
What do you say to the women or the mothers that's in that situation? They're married and they feel unhappy, unsure, not knowing, and they feel like they got caught up and feeling like mother and wife was purpose when actually God really had a real purpose for your life.
One thing I would tell them for them to not lose themselves is to make sure. For me, I'm a huge cheerleader when it comes to self-care. You have to always remember you and take care of you. Always take that moment for yourself. It is much needed. Don't forget about it. That is key and essential to you fulfilling who you are and just being there mentally every single day. You have to sometimes, even as a mother, you need that break. As that wife, you need that break. You have to take that moment. So that is key and essential of to not forget who you are. Take that time to yourself. Take time and to spend time in meditation. Take time to journal. from time to time. Take time just to get that 5 minutes of woosah, to breathe, and just to reset yourself. A lot of times we often need to reset. We're so busy on the go from day to day. As you mentioned, we wear so many hats, mother, wife, and so many other hats. You know, taking the kids to games and sporting events and different things of that nature, cooking dinner, working your full time job, running your business. You have to have that moment to reset, to remember before every all of this occurred, what was your game plan? What was your goal? Don't let that thing go hide into the bushes, into the go to the side. Go back and revisit those things that you wrote down, those visions that you had wrote down prior to you becoming the mother, becoming the wife, and know that those things are still achievable. They might seem like they're delayed, but they are not going to be denied. Allow those things to still live and not die. That would be my word of advice.
Oh my God, delayed and not what? Oh my God. They have been delayed and not denied. I love that. And we hear that so often. I think we need to revisit that as well. Now, when you said need a break, like when I tell you, I just told my mother this the other day. We were having a conversation about me being mother, me, when I first had my son. So here we are. I'm pretty sure you went through this too as Coach Raw, and a lot of us women do. We get into these marriages, we get into relationships, we have that baby, right? That first child. And the man always, oh, I'm going to be there. I got your back. I'm going to support you. You know what I'm saying? And then the baby, they might do it for the first couple weeks. I might give them a month. A month. I might give them that. And then about the second month, they not getting up in the middle of the night, like they used to. So you get up and do it and you forget. I'm pretty sure that it's a lot of mothers out there that experience that with a mate or a husband. And I remember I told my mother, I said, one time I told my son and his father, get out. I said, Coach Rob. No, for real. I said, get out. Take your son, take him to your mother's house, go somewhere, but get up out of here. Because I was tired and I had been exhausted. I had become drained. And he was not doing the things that he was supposed to do to help the situation. I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was being wife, I was being mother, feeding the baby, feeding him in the middle of the night, being on his and being on the baby schedule because you don't get sleep with that. Okay,
Mhm.
being on the baby schedule, and I just said, you know what? Get out. I needed a day to replenish
Mhm.
myself, to be replenished, and then it seems like when they came back, I was like, well, hello, well, thank you. I'm back. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, so I definitely love that. Like we have to get into that mode of getting a break. We need
Mhm.
that. And I know, and that's why we're gonna talk about this because I'm doing a lot of things with the Mother's Place.
Mhm.
Um to reach out into different communities to build other communities of mothers to help each other out because I'm pretty sure it's a lot of single mothers who need that support from one another. I love that. Reset. We definitely have to reset in
Mhm.
everything. Like I said, I came back and I was like, well, hello.
Mhm.
Welcome.
Brand new person. Mhm.
I had to reset myself. I had to do a reset because I did not want to take my energy or bad karma and
Mhm.
put it on somebody else, my child or his father. I love that. I love that. Oh my goodness. We have to do more of that. Is there any way that you enjoy breaking? How do you break? How do you reset?
Well, for me, let me just put this out there. I love my village. Let me say that.
Oh,
My village comes through because a lot of times I don't even have to say I need a moment. They be
okay.
like, "You need me to come pick up baby girl for a few hours?" And say nothing else. Look,
Right.
I'm waiting for you. But for me, journaling is key for me. Um, because even though I'm a coach, I'm still a private person with a lot of things because everyone can't handle your truth.
Right.
But those that can, I give it to them. I'm like, listen, I need to just put it out there. You ready? Because it's coming. But journaling for me is
Disclaimer,
key.
disclaimer.
Right. Journaling is key for me. Another way for me, I love water. So spending time by the beach. These are ways for me to help reset. Water, outdoors, like I love the sky, looking at nature, listening to like inspirational music, things of that nature. That's what helps me to just reset. It puts me in a place of peace, and then I'm ready to just go ahead and conquer whatever's next. It's like, okay, life, come on, bring it on. I'm
Right, right,
ready.
right.
But those for me would be my top things. But
Awesome.
journaling would definitely be the number one thing for me.
Oh my God. So while we're talking about journaling, I want you to tell people what you do with your business as far as coaching, because I do know you have a journal as well, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I do know that you have, I remember that you had a journal. You have a couple of journals that you actually give out and you actually get for people to purchase. Can you tell us more about journaling and how you use it in your coaching services and in different things?
Yes, at the time I do have two journals. One is a 30-day journal. It is called Everlasting Grace. It's a devotional journal which offers you scriptures, and it starts off with an activity which I love, that I do in my coaching. It's a mirror activity. So it causes you to sit in front of the mirror, and you are going to talk to the person looking back at you. And I think that that's a necessity in healing, because it's just you and the person looking back at you in the mirror, and it gives you that time to just put it out there. So that journal gives you different activities and scriptures through each day for 30 days. And I also have another journal called the You Are affirmation journal. This journal gives you an affirmation like you are wonderful, and it backs it with the scripture and gives you an opportunity to journal with it. Um, so in both of those, you have opportunity to write down your feelings, different things from the scripture that you might have picked up, or different notes, that you have might receive from that particular scripture. So those are the two journals that I do have currently, and I highly encourage them to any of my clients. Um, I definitely, with my coaching, I do offer the Everlasting Grace one, is one that all of my clients do receive, because I feel like it is key to the healing process.
I love that. I love that. People don't realize how journaling actually is it's a great tactic to use
Mhm.
in the healing process. I never knew the importance of journaling until I was younger. When I was in school, you in school and they ask you to, make those journals, and you looking like, why? Why do I
Mhm.
always have to write down what I did today or what my thoughts were? But then as time progressed, I would go back to those journals of the years before and be like,
Mhm.
whoa, like, wow. And sometimes Facebook even helps with that when they say, "Hey, this was you 10
Yeah.
years ago."
Mhm.
And it's like either I'm still there or I'm progressing. And it
Right.
kind of lets you know like, "Hey, wait a minute. Everything that's in life, we talked about this last Tuesday in Clubhouse. Everything in life, we're supposed to evolve
Mhm.
mentally, physically, and spiritually. If we're not evolving, then we have a problem. But when
Right.
you keep a journal, the journal is pure evidence that you have grown. And
Right.
a lot of times we don't see it. So journaling is definitely important. I
Mhm.
love what you said about your journals. Can you tell us more about your business with the pursuit
With Pursuit of Your Purpose,
of
as
your
I mentioned
purpose?
beforehand, we offer coaching. I'm a like purpose coach with it. I do offer motivational speaking. My motivational speaking is focused on mental health, and the healing process. Um, Also do relationship recovery. As I mentioned, I am a divorcee, so I know that a lot of people make the divorce process seem so easy and spectacular. And I always say, for me, yes, I had a divorce party, but that divorce party for
Look at
me,
my face.
yeah, it was liberating, because I was leaving one chapter and going into a new chapter. And that chapter needed to be closed. And I believe on your clubhouse, one of the speakers who were on the floor, she said, um, divorce for her, it was, I
It
forgot the
saved her
word.
life.
Yeah,
Is
it
that
saved
the
her
one?
life. And for me, it saved mine, because nobody knew during my divorce I attempted suicide twice.
Oh wow.
And I got to a point where I said, well, God, either you're going to remove me from this situation, or I'm going to remove myself from the situation. So I need you to do something for me. And I focus on, like I said, the relationship recovery because again, it's a process, especially with divorce. It goes through stages. So I want people to know that they're not alone when it goes through the stages. Yes, you have a lot of people supporting you, like, yeah, I'm glad you finally got it over with it, and blah, 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 blah. But let me be there for you to help you go through these phases because I've been there. I know what it's like to go through each one of these phases through the divorce, the resentment phase, and you have your happy days. So divorce recovery, it is not even with the divorce. Those who are in long-term relationships, when you go through that process, I can assist. I do assist with the relationship recovery on that as well, because that is important. I assist with self-esteem building because self-esteem is something that I had issues with growing up, which now is no longer a problem. That's something I overcame. And then also with depression, I do assist with that as well. So those are some other areas that I do assist with. And I also do some mentoring with young people. And my coaching is not just based on women. I also have some male clients as well. I think a lot of times people feel like when you look at a life coach, and you're getting some type of help, it's like, oh, that's a woman thing. It's not. It's
It's
open.
not.
Everybody needs it. Even a coach needs a coach. So it is what it is. But yeah, those are areas that my business assists with.
I love it. Even when you talk about relationship recovery and divorce recovery, we don't realize that it all connects to self esteem. It all connects to depression. It all connects to all those other things that come with it, within that. So everything connects. So I love that. We gotta do better. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if we need that help, we need to start reaching out instead of just
Right.
passing on our baggage from other relationships and traumas to other
Hmm.
people. So that is that in between stage. Like, I believe that every time we go through a different stage, we have to pause.
Right. Right.
And within that pause, we need to discern and discern if we need help before going to that next level or that next
Hmm.
relationship. And I believe that's where a lot of our parents messed up at. They didn't have that break. They just felt
Hmm.
like, oh, you're supposed to be in a relationship. Oh, we got to be married. But then when
Right.
things happened, they didn't know how to get back on track. So they ran into other things, whether it was drugs, whether it was
Hmm.
alcohol, whether it was other people, whether
Right.
it was taking out their anger on other people, whether it was becoming bitter.
Hmm.
All these things go back to taking a pause. Like, we need to take a break. We just need to, somebody said the other day, just silence the noise
Hmm.
and just sit there. Sit there. Journal if you have to. I love when you talked about journaling because a lot of times when you just journal and just write, you never know what's coming out. And that's
Right.
actually the spirit within just speaking when you're not thinking. It just comes out on paper. So I love that. I love that. I love when you talk about that. I believe that we are in a place, especially in the African American community, every community really, that we need to get into a place of learning how to be better stewards of
Hmm.
our relationships and connections to other people because it starts with self. And
Right.
then we'll be able to respect other people's relationship with us. And it's a lot of self healing because if we don't heal ourselves, then we're passing on that trauma and that baggage to that next person.
Hmm.
I mean, and that's through whether it's a mate or your best friend or a friend. And
Right.
if I don't have that self esteem and that confidence, so then when I go into this relationship and somebody has that, I attack that because I don't have it. And it's not cool,
It's not. And that's why I say to people, you have to understand it's okay to not be okay.
that
It's
part.
okay to not be okay. We are human. We have a plethora of emotions. We're happy one day, we could be upset the next, and that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And once we come to that realization, we're gonna be all right.
Oh my goodness. I just pray that we all get there because I believe that the world would be so much further than where it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
If we just stop, take that pause, break,
Right.
assess the situation, get help, and
Mm-hmm.
then go forward. But
Right.
it's okay to not be okay. I love that. We have talked about so many, you have gave so many, nuggets from the day We talked about your business, which is pursuit of purpose. We talked about, and so our title today was Unpacking Relationship Baggage. We talked about, sometimes our relationships with our families in our youth or in our younger stages actually have the impact on our later years, on our latter
Right.
life. I say to people all the time that God gave us family because so we'll know how to connect with other people outside of the family.
Hmm.
And because they're going to tell you the truth. They're going to be the raw. They're going to be their individual versions of themselves, and we can't pick and choose. I
Right.
can't say to my sister, "You're no longer my sister today.
Right.
You my sister every day." I can't say to my mother, "Nah, I think I want to go back to the mommy store,"
Hmm.
because she was my mother. So dealing with family and that those situations that happens within our childhood does affect our later years. So you talked about how that is very important that we heal that past trauma with that family so we can have healthier relationships. You talked about toxic people and how we should, disassociate ourselves, from the toxicity of other people when they have their own issues that they're passing on to us. And we talked about people pleasing. When you talked about abandonment issues, you talked about how a lot of times within our abandonment issues, we actually tend to gravitate toward people, and then we're trying to like plead with them, like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay." No, no, no. We have to realize the onset of what abandonment issues have when it comes to our relationship today.
Right.
Today. You talked about that. You talked about going back to the root. We understand we got to go to the root of something in order to understand it, in order to get healing from it. Because the more
Hmm.
that we keep going and acting like that root don't exist, it'll always come back.
Right.
Like that sunflower. I love sunflowers though. Don't
I
get me
love them
wrong.
too. I
I like
love
sunflowers.
them.
So, but you know how your parents used to go outside and be like, you better go and dig up that root of that sunflower because they know what? It's gonna come right back the next
Hmm.
year. You talked about being divorced. You talked about being at a settled place and how you was married and you was at settled. You was just there. It was like mundane. We talked about how we had to revisit moments, facing emotions and how emotions play a factor in what we go through, and that we have to pay attention to them. Revisiting moments, we don't want to ignore the moments. We talked about being present. We talked about important it's important to discuss traumas when it comes to relationships,
Hmm.
how, and then also think about the things that we don't discuss. We need to have we don't want to, I like how you said, we don't want to dump our luggage on other people.
Right.
That means just putting everything out on the table and just saying, "Oh, you got to deal with it." No, it's through conversation, it's through dating, it's through those things that we talk about our traumas. Singles, you told us that we need to, especially single mothers. Oh my God, we need to show up and lead by example. I'm going to put
Yep.
this, Taryn put this up here earlier. She said, "You better say it. You better say it. Lead by example." This was my word. So today, my word is vision. And also my word of the week is boundaries. Is that we have to remember that our children remember more of what they see than
Right.
what they hear.
Right.
So within that, they're automatically downloading those images that is creating their identity.
Hmm.
So that's why a lot of times we pick up and we do some of the things that our parents have done because automatically we think it's the right way and it's familiar.
Right.
So we have to do better at that. Lead by example. I don't want to put anybody in my life who's not great for my son.
Hmm.
Point blank, period. The man that I want him to become, that guy should already somewhat be on that road to instill that and be a
Hmm.
great example of that. And it holds me accountable even as
Right.
a mother. It
Right.
holds me accountable like, oh my God, I have to be the best for my son. I have to self-check myself on some things. We talked about healthy relationships, people giving their representative when you first meet them, and we have to make
Hmm.
sure that we know that. Pay attention to those red flags, like these
Hmm.
red lipstick, red,
Yes.
red flags, because they say when people show you them, receive that it's them.
Right.
That was an awesome one. You talked about dating yourself, knowing yourself, spending time with yourself. We need a reset. I told you how we always need a break. We as especially
Mm-hmm.
as mothers and as women, we get to a point where we need a break. I told you. I told my son and his father, get out. Okay. Get out. And when they came back, Betty Crocker on again.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. We need that reset.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling. You talked about how we should find other avenues of expression or to take that break. And you talked about water as being a healing nature, walking in nature. I love nature, okay? I want to walk barefooted on the grass all the time. I love bees. I'm a bee lover. I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Because if the bees die, we die.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
part. And they actually, they actually keep us here because they are connected. Everything is a cycle. And so I love bees and I love a tree. I love trees too. Inspiration, inspirational music is definitely one of my things. And journaling is definitely a way of release for
Mm-hmm.
me. I write all the time. Actually, I'm a doodler. Okay, I would doodle. I'm a doodler. I doodle. Self-esteem. You talked about you had a divorce party. Now that right there was a trip
Mm-hmm.
because that just came along within the last couple years, and we probably need to like maybe engage that more because it is a freedom
Mm-hmm.
to being divorced, especially if the divorce was tragic to
Right.
where you may needed to save it saved your life like Timer said before. But I love all of these things. I'm so grateful that God has positioned you in this place to help women. We need people like you to tell more of your story and to help us unpack our luggage, unpack our baggage. And I'm pretty sure a lot more of us are have a lot of baggage that we're not even attesting to that we have
Right.
you know but I'm so grateful that people like you. I hate that you went I say this on every show, like I hate that you had to go through the things that you went through in order to become the person that you are, but thank God that you made it to this point to help everybody else unpack their baggage. So I just want to say thank you so much for that, Coach Ra. I look forward for you to
Mm-hmm.
do many things. I'm pretty sure we're gonna stay connected because
You are.
people don't know. Like Coach Ra helped me sometimes. She helped me. Like this is the person I call out to for help. As you know, I've been through some traumatic experiences when it comes to relationships, whether it's family, whether it's male women relationships because of my trauma that I've experienced. But God has put Coach Raw in my spirit as well as a person that I can call out to help me unpack my baggage. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. So if you have baggage that you want to unpack, look, let me do it the other way. Coach Rod. Y'all need to find Coach. Matter of fact, it's some of y'all on my Facebook, on my timeline. Y'all need to reach out, because even even without people pleasing, I'm just a great person. Y'all didn't even know how to respect some of the friendships. Be, oh,
Mm.
Coach Rod, that part. Oh, okay, okay. Coach Rod, contact Coach Rod. Can you please give them your information of how to get in contact with you?
Yes, my website is going to be www.pursuitofyourpurpose.llc.org. I'm also on Facebook at Pursuit of Your Purpose LLC. And if you want some daily inspiration, some laughs and encouragement, I'm on TikTok at Queen Raw 17.
Well, you have it right there, Cream Y17. I loved it. I love it. Thank you so much. Like, I love to be in the presence of godly women. And I just want to say thank you again for sharing your purpose with us on today at the Mother's Place. Thank you again, Coach Ra.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Oh my God. Oh my God. You seen it right there. Did y'all hear all the nuggets that she dropped about us and dealing with relationships and unpacking our baggage? You know what? We have to stop taking our dirty laundry, putting it in a luggage, and passing it on to other people. Oh my God. We have to learn how to pause, Take a break, learn from what we went through so we can heal from it, and then move on to the next relationship, subject, or even people. If you have relationship problems with friends or family, we got to heal that part because all we're doing is taking that emotion of what was broken and we're becoming bitter about it. Hmm, we're becoming bitter. And so what we do is we hurt other people in our bitterness. I'm so grateful that women like Coach Ra exist because she is the person that can help me with healing so I won't damage the next person. If you are that person and you are out there and you have not healed from some of your relationships, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it was a person you was in a relationship with, maybe it's with your children, reach out to Coach Ra so you can get that. Matter of fact, even if you don't reach out to Coach Ra, take a break. Take a break. Be like I was. You know, when I was, even if you in that relationship, what did I say I did? When my son and his father was there and he was a baby and they got on my nerves and I needed a break, I told them, get out. Get out. Matter of fact, if they can't get out, you get out. Go take that break. Date yourself. Find you. And as one thing that I'll never forget from this podcast, what Coach Ross said, she was in a relationship with her marriage and she couldn't even remember her favorite color when she came out. Know yourself. Keep hold to that. Understand that everything has a purpose and so do you. So do you. So I just want to say thank you. That's from Shayna Asby, the family life coach. Thank you so much for being a part of the Mother's Place. And we look forward to seeing you again next weekend, next Sunday, as well as on Tuesday at 8:30 on our clubhouse. We have different discussions that encourage, motivate, rebuild, and realign us as mothers. Love you guys, and I'm out. Peace.